Hello there, how are you doing today? Today we're going to talk to the team Nextcloud. We're going to talk to Frank Karlitschek, who is the founder of Nextcloud project and the company. And we are also going to talk to Jos Puthvit, who is heading the marketing and community efforts at the company. So join me in welcoming Frank and Jos. Can you just quickly brief us what's new coming from Nextcloud?
Sure, absolutely. So for me personally, it's a very big, very nice day today, because we released something today that we are working on for 1.5 years. So actually for quite some time. It's called Nextcloud Talk, and that's like a well, in a way, it's a new feature for Nextcloud, but it's also I mean, it's a bit like a continuation of our overall mission that we move more into a collaboration and communication space with Nextcloud. So it's a feature that it's about video and voice calling and chat. You can use it standalone, but the real cool thing is, of course, if you use it together with the classic files you can share. So you can work together with on files, and you can call voice calls and chat while you're collaborating on files and documents. So it's a really nice, important new step for us. And as I said, this is like 1.5 years in the works. So I'm really happy that it's finally out.
Has there been a customer demand for such a feature, or you are building it, just internally you think that there should be the feature?
No, there's absolutely a customer demand. There are some, I think there are some customers of us are a little bit more conservative. They only want to have files you can share, and others they want to have something which is more in the collaboration space. Because if you look at Office 365 or Google Suite, then you can see that syncing files around is no longer enough. So with these solutions, you can actually together work on documents. You can chat together, like in a group chat, like Slack, for example, also, and then you can have video calls, and you can all do this together in the context of the right files of the project that you're working on. So this is what we are doing. So Nextcloud is the elevator pitch is that we're building something like Office 365 and Google Suite, but 100% self-hosted and 100% open source. And that's quite unique. I don't think something like that exists somewhere else.
So what you're saying is that it will be tightly integrated with the rest of the Nextcloud stack, just the way in case of Microsoft, Skype is they're integrating, and in case of Google, I think they have Google Duo or something, Hello or whatever it is there.
Yes.
Now, what are the features that are integrated together? And if you think about, from an enterprise customer's point of view, like for example, let's say we are 3 team members, within an organization, you, me, and Jos, and we are working on a project. So what are the features of Nextcloud which are tightly integrated with each other? Like, can we share files at the same time? Can we open a project and work on it? Can you talk about that?
Exactly. That's exactly the point, the integration. So, for example, it's possible that we have a group chat, the 3 of us, and maybe we are together in a group, like an LDAP group that comes from the company directory, or it can be a user-defined group. We also support user-defined groups. So if we're in a group together, this is like the project group, for example, and then we have a chat room, like only for us, the 3 of us, where we can chat together. It's a persistent chat room, so you can, if you disconnect, you shut down your computer in the evening, you open up in the morning, you see all the new chat messages from other people. And so we can chat. And with one click, you can also have a video call. And it's a video call which is better than what you can do with FaceTime or other solutions, because it's actually with a lot of users in parallel. So the 3 of us, we can have a call together. And it's also integrated into Nextcloud, as you said. So for example, the sharing dialog, if you want to share a folder or file, maybe I'm working on a Word document, I can click on sharing and I type in the name of our group. And then it's directly shared into the group chat, and then we all see the link, and we can together work on that. And the interesting part is that all of these features, they not only work in the web interface, but they also work on mobile. So together with Nextcloud Talk, we actually released a completely new iOS app and a completely new Android app, because everything you can do on the phone. And we even support push notifications, which means if you start a call, like in the group of us, the 3 of us, then actually I get a notification on my phone which says, hey, Swapnil invited me to a status call, and I can click on it and I can attend the call on my phone or my tablet. So it's really fully integrated and self-hosted. I mean, that's the main thing. It's all runs on your own computer.
Right. And when you are having a video call or whatever, so are these videos recorded somewhere, or they just go away once the call is over?
No, the video calls are not recorded, actually on purpose, because the real differentiator, what we're doing here is really high security.
Right.
So the video calls are, they're peer-to-peer, and they're
Okay.
end-to-end encrypted. That's fully end-to-end encrypted.
Oh, okay.
So not even the server admin can basically listen to our conversation. So it's really, yeah, and even including the metadata, by the way, right? There are other services like other messengers like Threema or Signal or Facebook Messenger. They also say that they're end-to-end encrypted. Maybe they are. It's hard to say if you can't look at the source code, but I assume they are. But the metadata is still on the server of the provider. So you can see who is calling whom, when, where. But in our case, nothing basically leaves your system or your infrastructure of your organization. Everything is on your own server.
Right. I do hear end-to-end encryption a lot from Nextcloud. What is the real value that it brings, especially European market or beyond that?
Yeah, I mean, this means that we are compliant with certain regulations. I mean, there are regulations in the healthcare industry, for example, or in the financial industry, and that's the same in the US and other countries too. By the way, it's not only Europe. There are regulations that you have to protect your data, maybe even protect from inside the organization. That some admins, they I don't know, they run the server and they run the infrastructure, but they shouldn't be able to access the data of the files. Of the users. So this is where end-to-end encryption is coming to place. Of course, there's also a way, and I'm talking about end-to-end encryption of files you can share for now. There's also a way to recover data, but this is maybe only possible with a special recovery key, which can be cut into 2 pieces and put into a safe of somewhere. So there are ways to recover data, but by default, the data is really protected. Not even the admin can read it. So even like if management, for example, or I don't know, some department really has like confidential data, there's no way for other people to see it.
Right.
So fiscal year report. I mean, if you're in a really large company on the stock market, you know, yes. I mean, information that's coming out once a year or every 3 months or 6 months, 6 months, depending on how often you report. That's super sensitive, and obviously, if you're an admin of the system where that information is stored on, well, you can earn a nice extra amount of money if you would, leak that information to certain investors, for example, or that can be abused. And it's the same with security information, right? Think about the bug in the Intel CPU, right, from Meltdown that was just released. There was a bit of conversation is now happening that apparently the CEO of Intel sold stock in last November, which means several months after the bug was already public in the company, as in not public outside, but in the company, it was known that this bug existed. Now, in theory, you could use end-to-end encryption to keep certain information very secure. I mean, I would guess that a CEO would still find out, but at least you could limit the number of people that might have access to it. Much more strict than you could if it is unencrypted on the internal company storage.
Yeah. By the way, it's a public misconception that people think that like this kind of encryption and data protection is only important for people in Europe. There are also very strong regulations in the US, especially the financial industry. For example, if you have a big financial organization like a bank and they're active, they're an investment bank, which means they invest in companies, and they have a different department, which is also active on the stock market, then there are really strong regulations in the US that those organizations, they're not allowed to talk to each other.
What I was curious about when you look at file sync and share services or chat program, which can be like Skype or Hangouts or whatever Google or Microsoft offer, do they also offer such kind of end-to-end encryption for file sync and sharing and chat and video or not?
You mean the Microsoft solutions like Skype for Business and so on?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there are, I think they offer end-to-end encryption of the actual payload, of the actual video stream. but that don't offer end-to-end encryption or don't have any protection for the metadata. So you can still see who shares what, even the file names with whom and so on, from which IP address at what time and so on. And this is all like on a central server.
So Nextcloud offers one more layer on top of what other competitors. Okay.
Exactly. So no information, no bit who is calling whom when leaves your organization if you don't want to.
Right.
That's unique.
Right. One thing, I was at Microsoft Connect event in New York few weeks ago, and they demoed a Visual Code studio where they had online collaboration between two developers, where they open the Visual Code and just like Google Drive or Nextcloud, where you can open a document and work on it. So you can actually work on the same source code together.
Yep.
So and that was a real applause, and people loved it, because sometimes developers work together even on the same terminal within the same office space, but they cannot share their so do you plan to offer, because Nextcloud has been very focused toward developers, so do you plan to offer something like that? Anything in the exciting thing in your pipeline for the future?
So at the moment, we ourselves, we don't plan to do any functionality specifically for developers. I mean, the same functionality is possible for normal Office documents, for Word documents, for Excel, and for PowerPoint, where you can actually work together on the same document. We have this already. At the moment, we don't plan to do any features specifically for software developers.
Right.
Saying that, Nextcloud is, of course, an open platform. And as you know, we have over 100 extensions and plugins for all kinds of use cases. So it's absolutely possible to extend it like that. And then we have some collaborative collaborative editing for software developers on top of Nextcloud. We have all the infrastructure in place. But at the moment, we don't plan to do that. We focus on normal Office workers, home users, something like that.
Yeah, but being an open source project is very easy, relatively easy compared to any proprietary software, because people, we have seen cases, people have been asking those proprietary vendors, but they just don't. But with open source, and when you see there's an uptake within the project in the community, you can very easily integrate with the main, project itself.
That's what we do all the time. Exactly. Yeah, this is where a lot of innovation comes from.
Right. Now, I will come to one point, and that is that through this new talk, Nextcloud Talk or chat integration, what are going to be the actual beneficiary? What kind of companies or organizations which are going to use it a lot?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's quite obvious that group chat is really, really useful. I mean, there are solutions like Slack, for example, that are more and more common. Slack, of course, has the issue that all the data and all the logins, the actually payload and the metadata, that they are all like stored by this one central company. And this might be okay for 90% of the cases, especially if you're based in the US, because then you have like the legal situation is quite clear. But if you're an organization somewhere else, or you collaborate with someone in a different country, or even in the US, if you have strong data protection regulations, like in the healthcare industry, then you want to have something which is has a in a special certified data center. It's behind a special certified firewall, where only certain people that are specially vetted have the right credentials to access it. But there are certain archiving functions in place, and so on and so on. So if you have like regulations or security needs that are like beyond the normal, then you can't do this with Slack. But this is what we can do with Nextcloud Talk.
Right. Now, when you're adding all these new features, and you are relatively new, ever since Nextcloud was, created out of OneCloud, what kind of market adoption you have seen there in terms of customer base across either Europe, or can you talk about that? What kind of growth you have seen in these couple of years?
Yeah, so I'm actually quite happy here. So first of all, I maybe have to explain that Nextcloud is like different things. Nextcloud is, of course, an open source project where a lot of actually thousands of people contribute. That's really nice. But Nextcloud is also a company. So Jos and me, we are representative of the Nextcloud company. And what we do, we offer like services and especially support for our customers who want to run Nextcloud server. It's very similar to the Red Hat model, where the software is open source, and if you don't need any support, you can use it. But if you want to have a certain SLA and support, then you can talk to Red Hat or Nextcloud in this case, and we offer this. And with this business model, I'm actually very happy that it works really well. So last year, we have like a 700% growth in our revenue and our number of customers. So this is when we did our planning like 1.5 years ago, like close to 2 years now, how everything goes. I didn't predict that. So the market demand is really higher than expected. This is why we also like we're doubling we doubled last year the number of employees in our company, and it's really I'm really happy about how it all works out.
So when you're saying that doubling the number of employees, what is the balance between developers versus engineer versus sales and support people?
Yeah. So we have a bit of a different situation here. A lot of companies, they are really sales focused. So they really have a lot of marketing and sales people and only a few developers. We have like way more development resources than most companies in our situation. The reason is twofold. First of all, I really believe that this market where we're in is not standing still. I think this is moving forward, and we have to innovate. And this is what we innovate here with Nextcloud Talk, for example.
Right.
And the second thing is that our developers, they're not doing only feature development, because our developers are also the same people who are doing the support to our customers. So if you buy like Nextcloud support, you talk directly to the developers who actually wrote the code in the first place. This is why we are actually very proud that we have a really good support, and our customer confirmed that. And that's the same with customer like workshops and custom development. So if for in a sales situation, in a lot of cases, our developers are directly talking to the customer and explaining how everything works. So we don't have any like marketing and sales people who would sell you anything, and then at the end of the day, the product is completely different. In our case, it's actually the same people, and this is why we have a relatively high number of developers. Yes, I don't know, what's the actual ratio? I would say like 50-50 or something, or maybe 60-40 developers to sales and marketing.
Yeah, either way, even if you do have, a lot of sales going on, you do need, more sales means more support requests also. So you do need to have more engineers to kind of handle those requests.
Of course.
Yeah. When we look at Nextcloud, we have seen some cases where companies may be directly using Nextcloud or organization using Nextcloud, but sometimes we have seen cases where companies are building their own clouds based on Nextcloud. Yep. Because that's a phenomenon I've seen with OpenStack, where companies, big Chinese companies, or even a lot of German companies, they are building their public cloud, which competes with AWS, but that's built on top of OpenStack, which is a private cloud. So what kind of usage patterns are there in terms of Nextcloud, where big companies are using Nextcloud to build their own cloud? Can you talk about that?
Yeah. No, that's absolutely happened. So Nextcloud is really flexible. You can use it in a lot of different ways. Obviously you can use it at home for like your friends and family, or your soccer club or something. Then you can use it in your enterprise, like in your organization, where you have like your special VPN login, your special Active Directory or whatever, where we have to build something for your company. And then, as you mentioned, we have, of course, the service provider market, which is really, really popular. So we have a ton of service providers, over 100 service providers, where you can get Nextcloud hosting from. And some of the bigger ones we actually work together actively with. Some of them are like medium size, and they do it for some special market or some special area or whatever. Mm-hmm. And there are a few really big ones. So for example, one of our biggest customers is one of the biggest service providers in the world. I'm not allowed to say the name, but they have like over 100 million users using Nextcloud. So this is, obviously you can do this with Nextcloud. And by the way, it's exactly the same code, right? The code, exactly. It doesn't matter if you run it for 100 million users or for 2 users on the Raspberry Pi, it's the same code.
Yeah, because I think with the last release, you focused a lot on scalability. So now you can see the results of that. When you talk about your growth, where is this growth coming from? Which kind of, because you talked about 3 or 4 market segments. So which is the maximum growth coming from?
It's really all over the place, I would say. We have like financial industries are really well. They really want to protect their data. We have a lot of like classic manufacturing engineering companies in Germany. They're really afraid of espionage things. So we have like the automotive space, for example, we have quite some customers. And then we also actually, I forgot to mention that earlier, we also have a lot of new customers, especially in the public sector. So public administrations like in Europe, different countries, but also like in Asia and other areas, who basically want to have an infrastructure where all the employees of the government can collaborate and share their file. And in this space, they really care about like independence. So they don't want to use like a public cloud, which is hosted somewhere else. They really want to, keep it to themselves.
Right. And which are the I mean, we already know which are the market you are already very active in, but what are the market you are looking at as a potential market where you want to expand?
Automotive is very important here in Germany. Healthcare is important. Legal and the financial sector.
Okay.
I guess those are the important ones.
And the country-wise?
I mean,
I'm talking about like where you see that, okay, we should expand to that country, or that region of the...
Yeah. I mean, we have customers on all continents.
All countries, yes, I see that.
Except Antarctica, I guess.
Maybe they're...
significant. It's really worldwide.
Maybe there are some, but they downloaded it and you're not aware of it.
Yeah, maybe. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the biggest growth at the moment is in Europe. But this is probably the case because we are also based here, and this is why we're most active here. But we really have like significant big customers on all continents, and the biggest one is actually in North America.
Right. Now, before we wrap up, one question that I will ask is, what is the next big challenge? Last time you talked, at one point there was encryption, then there was so you keep tackling those challenges, and all those challenges, they turn into features and they find their way into Nextcloud. So what is the next challenge that will also give me a kind of hint what is the roadmap looks like?
Yeah, the thing is, I mean, I don't really want to say, and I also can't say. I mean, first of all, I don't want to basically talk too much about features that are not done yet. I really like to talk about features that are working, so I don't really want to talk too much about the future. And the second thing is, of course, it's community driven. So people do all kinds of things without me even knowing. But I can say that when I talk to enterprises here, I hear a lot that they're looking for a completely open source Office 365 replacement.
Okay.
So I think this is really the direction that we are going. Obviously, Office 365 has a million features, project management, all kinds of tools. We won't do everything, but the main functionality, I think this is where we want to be in a replacement, fully open source and fully self-hosted.
Right. One core feature of Office 365 is also online, word processing capabilities. So do you plan to do it yourself or in collaboration with other open source projects?
Oh, we actually already do this together with Collabora, and they themselves are based on top of LibreOffice.
Right.
So this is we do this already. So this is a policy at Nextcloud that we follow all the time. So if something exists already in open source, we work together.
Right.
We only re-implement stuff that doesn't exist somewhere else.
Right. Okay, so the focus is going to be more towards more complete integrated experience for the enterprise customers. And I think the big difference between as you said 365 versus Nextcloud is that your customer can also be your contributors. So if they want something that will be in the code base already, so.
And some of them are, In fact, just a few minutes ago, I talked with a big customer of us who wants to contribute something back in the future. So this is just perfect. I mean, this is like the power of open source. Yeah.
Exactly. This is the luxury that they don't have because of their model. So they kind of restricted themselves to expand their own features. Exactly. I think we talked about some of the core things that I want to talk about. Is there something else you would like to highlight or talk about?
I'm sure I forgot a ton of stuff. I mean, Jos, I don't know.
Anything you have to say, Jos?
I think we've covered most of the important stuff. I don't have anything to add. No.
Yeah. So thanks for your time, and we will work on this story. And as soon as it's live, we'll let you know. And once again, thanks for talking to me today.
Thanks a lot.
Bye for now. Bye.
Bye.